Do you believe that after 80, life can change so quickly that you barely recognize yourself? One morning, you're still able to stroll through your garden, and just a few months later, your legs no longer obey. What breaks my heart the most is, no one ever warned you. And when the truth arrives, it often strikes like a storm, sudden, overwhelming, and disorienting. In today's video, I'll share 5 realities no one talks about, but nearly everyone who has lived past 80 admits. These truths may completely change the way you see aging. If you're in your 60s or 70s, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear will not only help you better understand your parents and grandparents, it may also prepare you for your own journey. And the first reality will shock many. Health declines faster than you expect. I remember the story of Mr. Walter, a 78-year-old retired Navy sailor in Florida. Back then, he would still drive his old pickup truck to the farmer's market every Saturday, lifting heavy bags of soil home for his garden. Neighbors would joke that Walter was stronger than most young men. But just 2 years later, once he turned 80, everything changed. He slipped in the bathroom, broke his hip, and from that moment on, a wheelchair became his reluctant companion. From a man once so proud of his strength, he fell into dependence on his children and lost the joy of simple things, like picking out fresh fruit at the market by himself. Walter's story is far from rare. Doctors confirm that after 80, the pace of aging accelerates sharply. Muscles weaken rapidly, the immune system declines, and illnesses once considered mild can trigger serious complications. The frightening part is that you don't notice the decline day by day. It often shows up like a sudden downhill slide. If you're in your 60s or 70s, this is the time to prepare. Don't assume the body you have today will carry you the same way into your 80s. Start caring for your bones and joints, build gentle daily exercise into your routine, and most importantly, listen to your body. Don't wait until a wheelchair is your only option to wish you had started sooner. Now I want to ask you, have you ever witnessed someone strong and healthy suddenly decline within just a few years? Share your story in the comments. And if you agree that preparation in your 60s and 70s is essential, hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the life lessons still to come. Because after the shock of declining health, another truth, quieter but even heavier, awaits. Loneliness after 80. Loneliness at this age isn't just a fleeting feeling. After 80, it becomes a shadow that lingers in daily life. I remember Mrs. Lorraine, a retired teacher. At 70, she still had a close circle of 5 or 6 friends. They would stroll in the park together, play cards on weekends, and her home was always filled with laughter. But after she turned 80, one by one, those friends left. One passed from cancer, another from a stroke. Until one day, she realized she was the last one left. The lively coffee gatherings were now just an empty table. Her children lived far away, only calling from time to time. Each evening, Lorraine sat by the window, staring at the quiet street and whispering, "Why is it so silent now?" You see, after 80, our social circle shrinks frighteningly fast. Friends depart, children get busier, and the silence at home can feel suffocating. What's even more alarming is that loneliness doesn't just harm the spirit, it directly impacts the body. Medical studies show that prolonged loneliness increases the risk of depression, dementia, and can even shorten life expectancy, equivalent to smoking daily. So, what can we do? The answer is simple. Prepare before it's too late. If you're in your 60s or 70s, don't just focus on physical health. Nurture emotional connections, too. Join a community club, take a dance or painting class, volunteer at a library, or simply keep a habit of calling a friend every week. These small actions can become the lifeline that saves you from the deep well of loneliness after 80. Have you ever seen an elderly person slowly sink into silence, with no one left to talk to? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Because after loneliness, there's yet another shock many face past 80, the loss of independence. At 60 or even 70, you may still feel confident you can do everything freely. But once you step into your 80s, reality looks very different. 7. Mr. Richard, 82, was once an extremely independent man. Living in Texas, he still drove himself to the grocery store, cooked dinner for his wife, and tended his backyard garden. He often said, "I don't want anyone to worry about me. I'm still strong." But everything changed after a simple fall in the kitchen left him with a fractured hip. From that moment, Richard had to rely on a cane to walk. Within months, doctors advised him to stop driving because his reflexes had slowed, making the roads too dangerous. From a man who once prided himself on independence, he became reliant on his family for everyday tasks: cooking, laundry, even getting to medical checkups. Richard admitted, "The hardest part wasn't the physical pain. It was the feeling that I no longer had control over my own life." This is the shock many people face after 80. Suddenly, you can no longer drive, no longer shop alone, sometimes not even dress yourself without help. What once seemed simple becomes an enormous challenge. And when independence slips away, many elderly feel as if their dignity is fading, too. But instead of fearing this stage, we need to see it as a reminder. Independence is priceless, but it isn't permanent. What we can do is prepare for it early. If you are in your 60s or 70s, start now. Create a safe living space with fewer fall risks. Build habits of gentle daily exercise to keep bones strong. And most importantly, talk openly with your family so that when the time comes, help feels natural, not humiliating. Because here's a truth: depending on others does not mean losing your dignity, if you've built a loving support system around you. So let me ask you, if one day you could no longer drive or cook for yourself, how would you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you find this important, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, because together we can learn how to age with strength and peace. But after the fear of losing independence, another deeper truth emerges, one that surprises many people past 80. The meaning of life itself changes completely. At 50 or 60, we often think about success, money, or achieving something bigger. But after 80, the perspective shifts entirely. I once spoke with Mrs. Clara, 84, a former businesswoman who built her own small company in New York. Through her 40s to 60s, she worked tirelessly, her office lights often glowing late into the night. She once believed, "The meaning of my life is to build a career and leave behind wealth for my children." But at 80, sitting on her balcony watching the sunset, she broke down in tears and whispered, "What I long for now isn't another $1,000,000. It's to have more afternoons like this, to hear my granddaughter's laughter and smell the bread fresh from the oven." That is the quiet yet profound shift. After 80, many no longer crave to conquer, but instead to preserve and to give. It's no longer about accumulating wealth, but about cherishing the simple joys. A peaceful afternoon, a hot cup of tea, a story shared with loved ones. And above all, it's the feeling that we can still give something, whether a smile, a kind word, or a warm hug to a grandchild. This is when many finally realize, success is not what we hold in our hands, but what we leave in the hearts of others. The meaning of life after 80 is not found in having more, but in holding on to what matters and giving it away. If you are in your 60s or 70s, this is the perfect moment to reflect. What truly matters? Money, fame, or those quiet moments with the people you love? Because if we don't shift our perspective in time, we may only realize it when it's too late. So let me ask you, if you had to choose one thing to define the meaning of your later years, what would it be? And then comes the final truth, one that few dare to speak aloud. It is no longer distant or abstract, but something you face every single day after 80. The presence of death. There's a sobering reality many discover at this age. Death is no longer a far-off idea. It becomes a frequent guest in daily life. I remember Mr. Samuel, 85, who told me during a visit to a nursing home, "When I was 60, I thought I had plenty of time. When I was 70, I told my wife, 'We're still young.' But now, past 80, every morning I wake up and wonder, will I even open my eyes tomorrow?" His words filled the entire room with silence. And that reality becomes clearest when you see old friends leaving one by one. Today you're laughing together, and the next week, all that remains is a black and white photo on a funeral table. And then you realize the familiar circle around you grows smaller and smaller. Death is no longer something you just hear about in the news. It is right there, among your neighbors, in your group of friends, sometimes even within your own family. What's frightening is not death itself, but the fact that no one ever prepared you for this. After 80, the truth hangs in front of you like a mirror. You cannot look away. But instead of living in fear, the wise choose to see death as a reminder that each day alive is a gift, a reminder to love, to say thank you, to make peace with the past before it's too late. Mr. Samuel shared that once he accepted this truth, his life changed. He began writing letters to each of his children, words of love he had never said before. He spent more time sitting with his wife, simply holding her hand under the sunset. And he smiled. Death hasn't made me weaker. It has made me treasure every single moment of life. If you are in your 60s or 70s listening to this, remember, death is not meant to terrify, it is meant to awaken. Don't wait until 80 to learn how to live fully. If you only had 1 year left, what would you do differently starting today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so we can walk through aging together, not with fear, but with peace. And after facing death, many finally see the greatest truth of all. That time, not money, not status, is the most precious treasure after 80. So today, we've walked through 5 truths few dare to speak out loud. Health declines faster than you expect. Loneliness deepens. Independence fades. The meaning of life transforms. And death feels closer than ever. It may sound heavy, but in reality, each of these truths is simply a reminder, an invitation to prepare now. If you are in your 60s or 70s, this is the moment to start building healthier habits, nurturing meaningful relationships, and, most importantly, keeping your spirit calm and at peace. Because when 80 finally arrives, you won't see it as a shock, but as a gentle chapter of life, one that is still worth cherishing. What worries you the most about turning 80? Share your thoughts in the comments so we can open a heartfelt conversation together. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that every time I release a new video, you'll be the very first to hear it. In the next video, I'll share. Svens. If you're in your 50s, listen carefully. I'm 80, and these are the life lessons that truly matter. These are lessons many carry with deep regret until the very end of life. You don't want to miss this.